Alrighty, found this video on my YouTube about the German protests in Bautzen after the Christmas market mass yeeting. So I'll pop that in and take it from there.
The town of Bautzen, Germany, has become the epicenter of a growing wave of anger and grief. Following the devastating Christmas market massacre, citizens have taken to the streets to demand answers and accountability. These protests aren't just about mourning the innocent lives lost. They're a cry for action, a demand for safety, stronger policies, and an end to senseless violence. In the heart of Bautzen, community leaders and everyday citizens have come together, united in their grief and determination. Their voices echo across the square. Enough is enough. But will those in power listen? Security measures are tight as tensions rise. While local authorities promise a thorough investigation, many residents feel their trust in leadership has already been broken.
So they're protesting for change. Is the government going to change anything? No. All you have to do is look at the UK. That whole Brexit thing, wasn't it supposed to curb immigration? What happened to that? To me, it didn't seem like it went anywhere. There are 3 YouTube channels made by Englishmen that I watch. 2 of them, one being Jeff Buys Cars and the other one the Mac Master, they offhandedly talk about the immigration problems and how Brexit didn't do anything. And then the third one, History Debunked, he talks about the immigration crisis in the UK or England or both, and the various policies that the government enacts, that kind of stuff. And that's where I get my information. Why? I'd rather trust those 3 YouTubers than the BBC. Why? Because the BBC is state-run, isn't it? Kinda like Canada's CBC. Here's a quick summary of what I could find. The BBC is not considered state-run. The BBC is funded by the British public through the license fee, which is set by the government, but paid by individual households. So their funding is set by the government. Sounds like control to me. This funding model is distinct from state funding, where the government directly provides financial support. The BBC operates under a royal charter, which ensures its independence and autonomy. The charter outlines the corporation's public purposes and responsibilities, and the government does not exercise direct editorial control. What about indirect? The BBC's chairman is appointed by the government. So it's not state-run, but the chairman is appointed by the government. Okay. Yet somehow that doesn't imply state control. If the chairman is appointed by the government, to me that implies state control, but anyway. The chairman's role is to oversee the corporation's governance and strategic direction, rather than to dictate editorial control. The UK government does not exercise control over editorial content through financial resources, direct or indirect political pressures, or control over production and distribution. While there may be attempts to influence the BBC's content, these are typically rebuffed by the corporation's independent governance structure. Typically. Keyword there. So in this guy's opinion, I'm not going to trust the BBC or the CBC. Alright, with that tangent done, let's get back to the main discussion.
They're a cry for action, a demand for safety, stronger policies, and an end to senseless violence.
So these protesters want safety. Well, if you want safety, you gotta deport all the invaders. But will the government do that? Nope. Because the government and their corporate overlords, they need the invaders to replace the population. Why? There's 2 main reasons I can think of. 1, the native population isn't popping out enough kids. 2, they like the division it sows. Using the UK as an example, didn't one prime minister get the boot because he wasn't doing anything about immigrants or the violence therein? And then the next person who got elected was just as bad or worse? The UK people literally had a choice between one person who was pro-immigration and another person who was pro-immigration. At times like that, I'm reminded of a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode. Here, I'll pop in a snippet.
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
Go!
So how can the ethnic native Germans protect themselves against all these invaders? Well, you gotta stop electing these politicians. I suppose you could try electing this AFD, but what if they're no different? Moreover, what if the powers that be don't like this AFD? Then they'll never get elected. There is another option, but I can't go into that because it's not YouTube friendly. Well, anyway, take care out there in Clown World.